We enter the final weekend of the regular season. The Bucks have a chance to lock up the 5 seed later on tonight. So we dig into the looming matchup, we think, with the Indiana Pacers and the importance of Kevin Porter Jr. on this team. We'll dig into it coming up after this on Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bucks. I'm Justin Garcia, joined as always by Camille Davis. We thank you for making this your first listen of the day and for checking out the Locked On Bucks newsletter. You can still sign up for free at lockedondaily.com to get your day started with the all-new free Locked On Bucks newsletter. Camille, I suppose I'll cede the floor to you here as you didn't have a chance to weigh in on a game we will never soon forget here, the 24-point comeback. And I mean, do we have to call it the Kevin Porter Jr. game or another one of the Kevin Porter Jr. games?
Yeah, another one feels fitting for how that game ended. It was a fun one. And that was a game where I recorded technical foul on Tuesday night. So we had the game on in the studio. So I was kind of keeping an eye on it. By the time we left, the fourth quarter was beginning. I turned on the radio broadcast. I always listen to the radio broadcast with you and Dave when I'm on the road during a game and I'm listening and you guys are kind of like, okay, it's an 8-0 run and Giannis hit 3. And I'm like, okay, it feels like we're building momentum. And I get back home and watch the rest of it. And I'm going crazy in the living room, like jumping around. Like, I cannot believe this is about to happen. Is it going to happen? And when they finally pulled it off, it was just one of those games where you're just like, I can't believe what I just saw. I can't believe this team came back from being down 24 points in the fourth quarter to find a way to win. It was just one of those wins where it doesn't feel real afterwards. And then you kind of take a second and go back through it and you're like, they really pulled this off with zone, with Kevin Porter Jr. making some big plays, 4 steals in the fourth quarter, with Giannis being who he was, and even Anthony Edwards after the game saying like that zone messed us up. Like we didn't know we couldn't do anything against that zone. And he was like, and they got Giannis in the zone. Like it was tough to deal with. So just a real fun game after the first 3 quarters left. Some things to be desired, one could say.
After the first 38 minutes were not great. What you saw in the last 10 minutes there. And yeah, I mean, you knew you were eating good when there was that, I think it was the 4th steal that Kevin Porter Jr. had and nearly lost the ball where you're like, oh no, this is where Minnesota gets the ball back, hits a shot and okay, order is restored, but he gets it back and throws the lob to Giannis. That's when you kind of like, all right, I think they're really going to win this game. Holy cow. Which brings us to that guy that we just mentioned, Kevin Porter Jr. Dave and I were talking about this after the game when we were waiting to hear Doc Rivers talk of like, look, you cannot overstate. You got this guy for a player that was not only not a part of your rotation, he was not a part of your plans going forward. You had declined Marjan Beauchamp's 4th-year player option. Could they have signed him in the offseason? Sure. But that never happens when that's the case. So it was a signal, hey, see if you can do something with this guy because we're not retaining him. And you get Kevin Porter Jr. for him. We got a ways to go to get here. But if Kevin Porter Jr. has moments like this in the playoffs, and if Kevin Porter Jr. works out an extension to stay here with the Bucks and continues to provide those types of moments for his age, his athleticism, and his ability, this has the chance to be one of those like trivia questions like, hey, do you remember how the Bucks got Kevin Porter Jr.? I'm not saying Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be one of the best players in franchise history, right? But if he is productive and productive beyond this season and is a mainstay here for the next couple of years, as you kind of usher in, I guess you would call it a new era where you start to see one by one guys from the early part of this Bucks run are no longer on the roster. Like if Kevin Porter Jr. becomes a part of that next wave, this is going to be up there in terms of the moves that John Horst has pulled off.
Absolutely. Even now, I was talking about with some friends, and I was just saying, like, the fact that we were able to get Kevin Porter Jr. for Marjan Beauchamp, and with the understanding of why that was, Kevin Porter Jr. does have some things with his background and his past that was a red flag for certain teams, but we've heard the Bucks say how they did their background.
Well, and not only that, Camille, but by the numbers, he wasn't
playing that well either.
he was one of the more inefficient offensive players in
Yeah.
the league this season.
So you pair those two things together. You heard the Bucks talk about how they could bring him in and they did their research and give him another chance. Like, we believe that he has grown, so on and so forth, and give him an opportunity to prove that. And from what we've seen off court as well, like, it's just like the growth has been there for him. And on the court, the production, like, at first I was like, this has to be a fluke of like, it's just a quick little blip for him. I don't know if this can be sustainable. And he's a young player. So sometimes it's not consistent, but he's shown enough where you're like, okay, this kid has something. Kevin Porter Jr., especially with the Damian Lillard injury now, has become an important piece of what the Bucks are going to be taking with them into the playoffs here. And this is the type of trade where you trade somebody who was not in your rotation, as you said, not part of your future, for a guy who could be your starting point guard. We don't know if the lineup switches are going to happen, but he's a guy who's playing some big minutes, going to be really important for this team. I was like, this might be one of the biggest heists that Horace pulled off. If things work out well. Like, the last thing I can think of is like getting PJ for 2 DJs. Like, this is one of those trades that's going to be, not necessarily because I'm saying Kevin Porter Jr. is the key to a championship, but just the assets you had to give up to receive a player who brought you a lot more value than what you sent out. That's a lot of what this Kevin Porter trade trade reminds me of, especially because it came in kind of like last second, right before the deadline ended. It's Kevin Porter Jr. getting traded, and you're just like, oh, really? That's okay. So that's the end of our trade deadline, and it's going to show that last move was one of the most important moves so far for the Bucks.
He has 31 games this season where he scored in double figures, which I mean, I'm not trying to say like, whoa, that's impressive. But 16 of them have come in his time with the Bucks. He has 6 20-point games. 5 have come in a Bucks uniform. The one outlier with the Clippers, he scored 26 points. It took him 39 minutes to get there. I mean, that's the other thing that stands out is when you look at some of these Bucks numbers in his production here, the points per minute. Like, if we break down Kevin Porter Jr.'s per 36 numbers since he joined the Bucks, that's one of the things that jumps off the page the most. In that, for whatever reason, the inefficiencies have largely gone away since he's joined the Bucks now. And Doc talked about this a couple of times over the weekend. In that, look, what's changed the most for your team? We've heard what he said about Giannis. But talking about both Ryan Rollins and Kevin Porter Jr., the number one thing that's changed with these guys, and especially with KPJ and in the efficiency numbers that we've seen, is he's playing downhill now. And at first, you saw that, like, he has that, I don't know, the quick twitch and the herky-jerky type of offense where he just moves at his own pace and he can get to his spots. He was always able to get to that mid-range at the elbow and knock down that shot. That was what he had his first handful of games here. But Doc said, look, we just told him, use your athleticism, use your speed. What Giannis does, do the same thing. Get into the paint, attack the rim, and put pressures on defenses, put the pressure on defenses. That's what he's done, and that's how the numbers have started to explode for him. He went from a 42% field goal shooter with the Clippers in 45 games to, and it's no longer a small sample size. We're talking about almost 30 games with the Bucks, 50% shooting from the floor. Went from a 24% three-point shooter to a 42% three-point shooter on the same volume of attempts per game as well. Free throws shooting, he was a 65% free throw shooter with the Clippers. He's been one of your better free throw shooters consistently, and a 90% free throw guy. And the effective field goal percentage is 55%. That's 10 percentage points better than it was with the Clippers. Look, I know we mentioned there was a lot of maybe side eyes, and we heard not just Frank, some others that, and rightfully so, the background and some of the off the court issues. There was a lot of, I don't know, we'll see. But there was a decent amount of Bucks fans that were pretty hyped for this. I don't know how much of that. Yeah. And I don't know how much of that had to do with, we remember the 50-point game that he had, but there was a handful that from the start too were saying, start Kevin Porter Jr. And I shot that down, like, come on, guys, we're not doing this. But now it's a serious conversation that even when, I don't know about when Dame returns so much, but as you mentioned, who knows if they change the starting lineup. What you're seeing with him out there, to me, That's the interesting piece to tackle as we start to head into the playoffs.
Absolutely is. And I think I mentioned it before, if like there's any silver lining that has come from Dame having to miss time, it's just seeing some of these other guys get more opportunity and be put into bigger roles. But we even heard with Dame. I was looking forward to seeing Dame on the court with Kevin Porter Jr. because
Yeah.
he mentioned, and we've talked about some of the issues that Dame has had with how defenses play him, and him just saying, hey, if I have a secondary ball handler next to me who can initiate the offense, I love playing off ball as well because it gives me better looks. So even getting towards the playoffs, I was hoping to see a bit more KPJ plus Dame, but now without Dame, you've seen a lot more KPJ plus Rollins, who is somebody who did not have a great game against the Timberwolves, but I don't think that's an indictment on like who he is as a player. Like we've seen what Rollins can do, and he is somebody who the Bucks are going to probably need come playoff time, depending on how long Dame continues to be out, to play a role for this team. So you want to continue to see the growth, but again, with young players, that consistency piece tends to be one of the last things that comes. You can kind of swing one way, swing a different way, but seeing Kevin Porter Jr. and his growth so far as a Milwaukee Buck, even the mental part of the game of him just understanding like my teammates believe in me, they're empowering me, I feel wanted here. I'm hearing Giannis say, hey, you got the ball in your hand, I trust you, go do something with it. Bobby Portis being the one to like kind of calm him down when he's getting into it with Rudy Gobert, which who would have thought when Bobby's the one with his arm around you, like it says something, but it's just like the growth he's had as a Buck and what he feels around him mentally and what we've seen on court. It's been fun to watch. I can't lie. It's been real fun to watch.
I mean, that was the number one recited line everywhere from the post game last night with Doc was, when Bobby came up to me and told me like, we got to get Scoot under control, coach. And Doc saying, man, when Bobby told me that, I knew, okay, we're in a good spot here with Bobby. But we briefly touched on it. I suppose we should spend some more time on it. The assumption that Dame is not going to come back. I think that's what we have to go forward with. So what does that mean for the backcourt and who should be the starting point guard? Doesn't matter who starts at point guard for the Bucks. We'll get into that conversation and to take a look to the scenarios that are in play for the Bucks to lock up their seed in these next couple of days. Really tonight, a chance that we'll know late tonight where the Bucks are going to be locked in the Eastern Conference standings. We'll dig into that conversation coming up next on Locked On Bucks. Well, you know what time it is. It is tax season, and this is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantees. Baseball season's in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash, whether it's strikeouts, RBI, or first inning runs. Prize Picks keeps every game exciting. This week, you can pick Aaron Judge for more than 1 homer, Christian Yelich for more than 1 home run, Bryce Terang for more than 1 stolen base. It's that easy. You set up a lineup in less than 60 seconds, and when you win, your payout is quick, safe, and secure. You'll always take advantage of events like Taco Tuesday, where Prize Picks offers discounts on select player projections for even more value. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. So does it matter who starts between the two. I mean, as we've seen, and I think we've all talked about this through the years, the important part is who finishes these
It
games
is.
and who plays more minutes. Doesn't matter if it's Kevin Porter Jr. or Ryan Rollins that starts, assuming there's no Damian Lillard here.
I think it matters to a certain degree here because you don't want to end up in situations where you're consistently needing to have to come back from being down 20, 24 points. Like, it was fun to watch
And
the comeback.
double-digit comebacks has unfortunately been a staple for the Bucks of late.
Which is like, it shows me that this team has no quit in them. We heard after the game, Bobby Portis is the guy who kind of pulled everybody together. Like, hey, we might have situations like this in the playoffs where it's going to require us to dig deep. We might be facing big deficits. We cannot stop playing until the game is actually over. Let's get to it. So, like, I love that aspect about this team, knowing that if they are down, it does not mean that the game is over for them. They're not going to quit. You can punch the Bucks in the mouth a few times and they're going to keep getting back up. Like, they watch Friday and they learn from Craig and Debo type of getting back up from this team here. But I would love for them to also be able to start fast and sustain throughout the game. Like, basketball is a game of runs. We know they're going to happen, especially now in the 3-point area of the NBA where no lead is really safe. But being able to put yourself in a position to start the game better, I think should be under consideration of how the starting lineup is configured.
Yeah, Kevin Porter Jr. took 9 shots in that game. Like, the impact that he had, he did get to the free throw line. I think all 3 of them were fouled on threes, weren't they? He had multiple. So. And that's the other thing, that he's started to draw quite a bit because of his ability to get to the rim, his quickness, that you don't quite know, like, is this guy going to shoot it? Is this guy going to try to blow past me? So that's another thing that you started to notice here with more regularity. I do like what they've kind of gone with here with Ryan Rollins. And I think, look, the bigger question when we talk about starting minutes is guy that we talked about yesterday that we've seen, 3 straight games now that he hasn't really played in the fourth quarter much, if not at all, in Kyle Kuzma. And that's kind of what the Bucks have settled into here is Ryan Rollins. You like what he gives you defensively to start the game. He plays much more, within the system, with taking what's given to him, his defense that he has, as we just mentioned. But you have that group to start things. And we've seen the benefit the Bucks have had is between Rollins and Kevin Porter Jr., whenever one hasn't had a great game, the other's been pretty good, that they've been fortunate there. Okay, it's not a Rollins game, it's a KPJ game, or vice versa. But the Bucks have kind of fallen into this thing where it's, okay, we have this group that can play if this happens. We have this group that can play if this happens. And we can kind of overlap some of those. And it's only going to improve, assuming you get a Jericho Sims back in the playoffs. And again, Dame will cross that bridge when we get there. But to me, that's the biggest difference from this year to last. I mean, one of many differences, but as we touched on and talked about a number of times, Camille, last year was like the football line where you're talking about running backs and you need 5 yards. Great. I'll give you 4. You need 3 yards. Great. I'll give you 4. Like, that was the Bucks last year of, well, this is how we play. So we'll go to the bench and we're going to do the exact same thing. And now you just have so many more options and so many different ways to play.
Yeah, you do. And that's what's going to be beneficial for this team as they continue to move forward. And of course, you wish that the injury situation wasn't what it is with Damian Lillard being out, given how big of a part of this team that he is and how this roster is constructed. But one thing that I have liked about the fact that the Bucks do have multiple options is seeing Doc Rivers during a game be like, okay, this is what's working, and we're going to continue to ride with this. Like, I love the fact that Doc didn't feel obligated to be like, okay, well, I need to put Kuz back out here now because, he starts. We just got him at the trade deadline. Yeah. It has to be this way. No, like, this game it's not for Kuz. We're going to keep rolling with what's working, and we're going to ride that until we cannot anymore. And to your point about Kevin Porter Jr. and Ryan Rollins, where it seems like they can't have a great game on the same night for some reason. Would love for them to be able to continue doing that going forward. But when it is the case where it's only one of them having it and the other one's not, it's like, okay, we're going to go with the one who has it. And seeing Doc be able to adjust his lineups on the fly like that gives me some hope and encouragement heading into the playoffs. Honestly, even the Bucks on this current 5-game win streak here that they're on towards the end of the season, like it makes you feel better, makes me feel better heading into the playoffs of like, okay, they're building, they're stacking some wins, they're building good momentum heading into the playoffs, something that they weren't able to do last year. So the game that they have Thursday night against the Pelicans, again, take care of business there. And then you have your last two against the Pistons here, which could mean something, could not mean something, but just the way that they've been playing over the last week and a half or so, like that's what I want to see from the Milwaukee Bucks as they get closer to the playoffs.
Yeah, and look, there were no games of any importance or relevance to the Bucks last night. Tonight is the big one where we may know what the matchup is tonight. That scenario, I believe, is in play. There's a lot that's on the line with these games tonight, so we'll take a look at all those scenarios. What's most likely for the Bucks with their first round matchup, and when we can start to really dig into here's the matchup, here's how it went throughout the course of the season, here's what we should look for in the first round of the playoffs. We'll get into that conversation coming up after this on Locked On Bucks. Well, time to talk to you now about our friends over at DoorDash. You hear that swoosh? You save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. When a player scores 50 or more in a game during the 2024-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Maybe Kevin Porter Jr., maybe Scoot can give us that 50-point performance. You can celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot and get it delivered straight to your door. If you stayed up celebrating that late night, watching highlights, watching another Bucks comeback, use Dash Pass to grab something delicious while you're saving big. Or if you just need lunch on the go, didn't make anything and didn't meal prep for the next day at work, use Dash Pass to get your favorite meal with $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use the promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must be an active Dash Pass account member. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. All right, so the games on the schedule tonight, Camille. The big one, the New York Knicks in Detroit to play the Pistons. So the Knicks can still get caught by the Indiana Pacers for the 3 seed. New York is 2 games up, but they do hold the tiebreaker. So the Pacers need to win out, and the Knicks would have to lose out. That's the same scenario for the Bucks to catch the Pacers as well. So there's 3 big games on the NBA schedule tonight, and they're all the Eastern Conference matchups. Knicks in Detroit. The Cavs are in Indiana to take on the Pacers, and Cleveland, with their win on Tuesday, wrapped up the 1 seed. And then, of course, the Bucks and the Pelicans. So let's just start with the 5 seed. If the Knicks win that game in Detroit, they are the 3 seed. And it also means if the Bucks beat the Pelicans, the Bucks are guaranteed to finish no lower than 5th. They could still finish 4th, depending on what Indiana does down the stretch. But that's the big one. You can know by 9:30 tonight if the Bucks are going to, in all likelihood, be the 5 seed. If the Pacers win and beat the Cavs, then the Bucks can't catch Indiana. So the Pacers, if the Knicks win as well, would be the 4 seed. And then we kind of know where we're headed here. So there's a scenario where 1 through 6 is locked up later on tonight.
Yeah, and I know the NBA is hoping that doesn't come down to the case, because I did see that the NBA flexed the Pistons Bucks game on Sunday onto their prime time. It's like a 1:00 game, but on their national TV slate. So I know they want that game to mean something, but I would love to be able to head into that weekend against the Pistons of we have it all locked up at 5. Maybe, guys get a little bit of run, but being able to rest or have the option to, I think would be great for this Bucks team. But knowing that it feels like the 5 seed is the spot the Bucks are going to land. As you mentioned, the 4 seed is still in play, but regardless if it's 4 or 5 for the Bucks, it seems like the Indiana Pacers are going to be the matchup for the Bucks, whether it's 4 or 5. And if that is the case, did you have a preference? Like, it feels like Knicks Bucks is falling away, but did you have a preference between the Knicks and the Pacers of who you would rather see the Bucks match up with?
I've had quite a few conversations about this with a couple of people, and a couple writers I'll leave unnamed too that have said the Bucks want nothing to do with the Knicks. Trust me.
Yes, yeah, I've seen that.
I mean, I don't really. Where I fall is, look, I get the Bucks are 0-3 against the Knicks, and the losses have not been pretty. I think the Bucks are a much different team. We didn't see the Bucks full strength. We didn't see the Knicks full strength in that last game. I just think, and look, I suppose that the simplest way to answer it is this. I would pick the Bucks to beat the Pacers regardless. As long as Giannis is healthy, I'm going to pick the Bucks in that series. I still think I would pick them to beat the Knicks in the first round. But I think the big thing is there is no answer for Giannis with the Indiana Pacers. The Knicks have other guys they could throw at him defensively, but I like some of the other matchups that the Bucks have in that series against the Knicks, especially if we're to assume there's no Damian Lillard and what that changes for your backcourt to give you more size at the point guard position, more defensive ability too, to throw on a guy like Jalen Brunson. So that's where it's kind of torn for me. I will say this. I think a lot of people are underestimating or kind of diminishing what the Indiana Pacers are doing. And it's just a lot of the, like, I want the Pacers. I want to beat them after what happened last year. And I get that, but Pacers are really good. The Pacers have been one of the best teams in the league since January 1st. And we can point to the 3-1 record that the Bucks have against Indiana this season and say, well, look at that. They should easily handle them. Indiana at one point was 9-14 this season. I think when they lost on New Year's Eve in that collapse to the Bucks, they were 16-18. 2 of those 4 games were played very early in the season when the Pacers were not very good. The Bucks weren't great early either. And they were all close games too. Then you had that disastrous finish in Indianapolis with the 4-point play. So I just don't think it's as simple as there's no answer for Giannis and the Bucks have won 3 out of 4. That I'm a lot closer to 50-50 than I think most people are. But ultimately, I think because of the Giannis factor, I would still concede, it makes more sense to get the Pacers. But I think it's closer than people are willing to admit.
That's fascinating because when I thought about it initially, I was like, man, the Bucks have shown so far that they don't really have an answer for the Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns pick and roll. Like when they go into that, it seemed like the Bucks were getting flummoxed. But again, to the point of if it's Ryan Rollins and it's Kevin Porter Jr. out there at the point of attack, what does that look like? It'll be a test, but what does it look like? And we saw the Bucks play him better, Karl Anthony Towns, the last matchup.
Yeah, the big thing that you would just have to be cautious about is it's the first real playoff exposure for Ryan Rollins. So there's that. And also, you got to be careful the whistle that Jalen Brunson's going to get against the young player, even Kevin Porter Jr. So, yeah, those are the things of you may have more size and more defensive ability, but these are young guys, and Jalen Brunson's going to get that whistle. So just be careful there.
Yeah, so that was the thing for me with the Knicks. And I do think that people aren't giving the Pacers enough credit because they were good last year. We saw how far they were able to make it into the playoffs last year. And this year, it got off to a weird start with them. Like Tyrese Halliburton was not looking like Tyrese Halliburton. And that was a big part of what was ailing the Pacers early on. And as he started to get his rhythm and his momentum going, like you saw the wins pick up for them, just to play around them, also getting better with all the different role players available. So, Pacers Bucks is going to be one of those series where I think it goes at least 6 if that is the case for that series. But I don't think they have an answer for Giannis, but they're going to test some of the Bucks traditional weaknesses that they can have. So the Bucks are going to have to be really sharp about that. But of course, Justin, we have a lot more time to talk about what that playoff matchup could look like as we continue to get closer. Bucks first have to continue to take care of business and get this win tonight against the Pelicans, and hope, along the way here that, hey, maybe the Knicks can take care of business too, and we can already have that 5 seat locked up, and then we can really start having some of those playoff conversations.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be all of next week as we know what the matchup is and digging into every way you can analyze it on the show. One quick thing to throw your way here, Camille, the old blind resume, which is always great to toss out numbers in the audio format here. But I'm going to give you 4 teams or 4 numbers. You tell me who you think is who here. So we're looking at the bottom 4 in the playoffs.
Okay.
The 3 through 6, the Knicks, the Pacers, the Bucks, and the Pistons. So here's the 4 net ratings for those teams. We have a 5.9, a 5.6, a 2.5, and a 1.5. Which one do you think is the Bucks?
Is this over the course of the entire season, or from?
I'm sorry, since January 1st.
Okay, so let me hear them one more time. Since January 1st.
Since January 1st, we have a 5.9, a 5.6, a 2.5, and a 1.5.
I think the biggest one I'm gonna guess is the Pacers, because I know the Knicks have slumped a little bit since the start of the new year. So I would go.
I think the 5.9 is the Pacers.
I think that's Pacers, and then
We have 5.6, 2.5, and 1.5.
I feel this feels like a trick question because my instinct goes Pacers, Knicks, Pistons, Bucks. That's my initial gut reaction. So I'm gonna stick with my gut.
Okay, you're wrong. You did get the Pacers right. 5.9 net rating. That is 6th best in the league since January 1st. The Pistons are 5.6, 7th best in the league.
I knew they were better than the Bucks, but I didn't know they was that good.
Bucks have a 2.5, and the New York Knicks are 27-19, 1.5 net rating, a 115.6, 114.1 offense defense since January 1st. So it's been trending towards, hey, Pacers have been really good. These Pistons keep on winning, and the Knicks have just slowly started to fade into the background here.
See, like I mentioned, I knew the Knicks have been falling a little bit since January 1st, and I knew the Pistons were doing better than the Bucks, but I didn't realize the Knicks fade was that drastic so far this year. So, I mean, something to keep an eye on for them heading into the playoffs, especially with Jalen Brunson continuing to work himself back into shape.
Yeah, the Knicks overall are 4th best for season as a whole in net rating at a 4.3. The Pacers are 11th. How's this? Pacers are 11th, Pistons are 12th, Bucks are 13th in net rating for the entire season. So those 3 teams have been pretty closely tied in all the metrics and certainly by the standings as well. But yeah, we'll get a lot of answers, we think, to our questions tonight with those 3 games to keep an eye on and see, do we know the matchup for the Bucks or do we know basically everything 1 through 6 in the Eastern Conference? We, of course, have the post-game show coming up after that game tonight, and you and Frank may know, hey, do we shift our attention to Bucks Pacers now and start to dig into that? So look for that in your feed tomorrow morning. Also, Camille, I saw a lot of comments on yesterday's show saying, I've never seen him not wear a hat. That's what his hair looks like. I've done the Tuesday night shows, and Camille can't. And when we have games at the arena, I don't wear a hat. So you've seen me without a hat on before. And you get a chance to see me without a hat on today, too. So if you have Spectrum, I'm going to be on the round table with Dennis Krause and Jim Paschke later on today. Nice. So I promise I won't be wearing a hat there either. But that'll do it for today's show. Anything else you got going on, Camille? Anything you want to plug?
No, not at the moment. Just tune in, see Justin without a hat on. It's not AI, folks. He has hair. So, continue to support the pod.
That'll do it for today's show. Again, the post-game show comes up tomorrow, and maybe we know everything by the time tomorrow's show rolls around. For Camille, I'm Justin. We'll talk with you guys once again tomorrow on Locked On Bucks.